there, not for them, but because I had access to the library, is I identified works of art that had some relationship to the Bronx. And one of the things that came out of that is I was able to learn about some of the details of the family that owned the slave estate that is partially now the Bronx Zoo. And a lot of things have happened in museum culture in the last 10 years that among academics are widely known, but in the general public, it's not making the papers. And so, believe it or not, there have been many major museum expansions planned in America that have been stopped in the last 10 years. And they've been stopped largely because the sense of the communities was that museums in many ways have gotten away from some of their core original 19th century function of a focus on educating the public. Even among elite audiences, like the people who live around the Metropolitan Museum of Art, that expansion, the way they wanted to do it, was stopped cold. Because even for some of those very upper income local people, they felt like it was a celebration of the museum and it was not enough about pursuing the core mission. But other things have happened in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Major museums have not been allowed to expand because there's been such mission drift. And so part of what I've gotten out of reading some of the essays from, again, this underground movement that most people don't even know about, is we need to be more conscious, those of us who work in culture, of what we put in the frame. What do we validate? What is important? What do we say is important? Okay, and so I am very actively saying in this tour that working class history is worth knowing, is worth documenting, is worth validating, that it deserves to be on the page. One of the things that's come to me in my research is, of all the histories written about the Bronx, I don't just mean neighborhood histories or a focus on individuals or elements of history, but for anyone who has tried to write about the history of the Bronx from beginning to end, only one of those histories, and there are over 5, has ever been written by a person of color. And even the person of color, Evelyn Gonzalez, who wrote hers, The Bronx, less than 10 years ago, she's not even from here. So my question is, what does it say about the state of society that a group of people, Latinos and African Americans, who have been the dominant population of the Bronx for over 4 decades, that not one of the millions of us has on one side been empowered, or two, assembled the resources to claim the Bronx from beginning to end in our image? What does that say about our self-image? I'm not saying I know all the answers, but I think it's something we really need to sit with. You live here, for those of you who are local. I live here. We need to claim where we live. And so what we're doing right here, outside of this neo-Tudor building that was built about 100 years ago and has had many uses, is now occupied by the corporate offices of a nonprofit called Community Life, which is all kinds of social services, including housing formerly homeless people elsewhere. This site was also, during the American Revolutionary War, a minor kind of guard gate for the Delancey estate, because the Delanceys were very pro-British. They were not down with the American Revolution. They wanted to keep the colonies colonies. And so they had a blockhouse right here that helped protect their estate, which was very substantial. And some of the ways they protected their estate and that they were able to subsist in a time of war was they stole livestock from other settlers who were fighting for revolution. Some of those armed horseback militiamen were African American. And I learned about that from Anthony C. Green, who is a former education coordinator at the Bronx County Historical Society, who has a master's degree in education. So I just want to hold up this site, because how many of you knew that the term cowboys came from the Bronx? Now you know, and some of them look like me.